Everybody, give you one more minute. Please sign in if you have not already done so. You need your name, your program name, and your registry ID number. And make sure that you've already attended session 1 because this is session 2 of Creative Curriculum. So if you weren't on session 1, you may need to check. We need you to sign in for both sessions in order to give you credit. Okay. All right, and as people are signing in, we'll get started. All right, so again, this is part 2 of Creative Curriculum Implementation for Teachers. Welcome back. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, everybody.
We made it through another week. So again, this is a continuation of yesterday's session. We're going to pick up pretty much right where we left off. We'll do a little bit of review, and then we'll move along. All right, so again, anybody who missed it yesterday, my name is Elisa Eddings. I'm a Quality Assurance Specialist at PHMC for Philly Pre-K. I'm here with 2 of my colleagues.
And good morning, everybody. Again, happy Friday. My name is Quayle Archie. I also work as a Quality Assurance Specialist at PHMC.
Yes, good morning, everyone. And my name is Saida Velez. And I'm the Quality Assurance Coordinator for PHL Pre-K.
All right, so we understand that typically this is a 6-hour in-person training, so we have split it into 2 3-hour sessions to do it virtually. So we know it's a lot of information, and it's a lot of information that you need to get, but it does, take a while to go through. So doing this virtually is not ideal, but try to stay focused and avoid distractions as much as possible. Today's session is going to be more discussion-based. We're going to ask a lot of questions, so please make sure you're participating. We appreciate it.
I'm going to briefly go over our objectives for part 2 today. There are 4 objectives, and the first one is to examine 3 aspects of effective learning environment. Number 2, set up a learning environment that encourages inquiry and maximizes opportunities for learning. Number 3, use project-based investigations with embedded learning opportunities to help students find answers to their questions. And number 4, explain how the curriculum resources can be used together to offer meaningful learning experiences and facilitate communication with children's families. Okay, so we're going to do a quick icebreaker, an extension from yesterday. And thank you for your participation yesterday. You all added some good ideas and questions to our KWL chart. And so in the first column, we asked you yesterday what you knew about creative curriculum. And here are some of your responses. It's popular and comprehensive, easy to follow. It has broad topics. It comes with 6 studies, but you can purchase more. And it's well organized. Some of the questions you had, the things you wondered about creative curriculum yesterday, are listed. How to best utilize the lessons, how does it prepare students for kindergarten, and how to maintain equity between different classroom teachers and levels. So that's great. We appreciate that. And we want you to add right now to the chat box, or you can unmute yourself, what you learned yesterday about creative curriculum, okay? We want to hear what you learned, anything new, anything that answered the questions in the middle column, anything that you left that was helpful for you in implementing creative curriculum this year. So please unmute yourself or add your comments to the chat box. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nzinga. Good morning. What I I'm glad I found out that the creative curriculum allows the teacher to be creative and bring their own gifts to the curriculum, who's already been a teacher for 20 years. So that's something I didn't know. I was kind of scared about it, being I'm coming from a Montessori background. Well, I'm a Montessori teacher. And so, yeah, that's what I liked. I like the idea that it do have academics and we can create at the same time. We can bring our special gifts.
Definitely. So it can be used by veteran teachers like yourself who've been in the field for many years using a different curriculum. And it allows you to switch over, transition easily to using creative curriculum, the components of it. And it's also user-friendly for new teachers who are fresh to the field and who are using a curriculum for the first time. Mm-hmm. Anyone want to share else? Yes, go ahead.
I said yes. I like how you explained that.
Oh, great. Yeah. Thanks. Okay, someone said, I have learned that it lets the children control how they learn. It is not so strict on the teacher to do exactly what it says. Yes, it is flexible. And it is child-centered. It's driven by the questions that the children have in regards to the content of the study, which can take you anywhere. I think children's curiosity and creativity is boundless. So it's amazing to see what pops up when the study is about trees, and you may end up on Mars. You could.
Exactly. Yeah.
Depending on their questions. Curriculum is more of a foundation. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think that by me being introduced to the curriculum last year, just being introduced to it, but now I'm glad I'm getting a complete overview of it. And I knew that it was like a blueprint more or less for me because I'm more hands-on and creative with the children. Again, I let them kind of like lead me into where we want to go with a certain subject. So I did like it because it didn't just leave you totally on your own. It gives you like a blueprint of things to do or how to do it and what they expect to have in the lesson that you are doing.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I think, Ms. Sandra, that really helps children develop a love of learning, right? We want them to love learning. We really do. And because this is the foundation years, we want to have that happen now. And so allowing their questions to guide the studies really empowers them and makes them feel like this is what I want to do. This is what I want to continue to do. I want to learn more and more and more. So there's several comments in the chat box. I'll just read them. Curriculum is more of a foundation or structure framework of lessons, assignment, more of an observation of the child. I learned that each study is flexible and you can always switch things up year by year. I also like how it gives children the opportunity to use their imagination. Mm-hmm. It allows for expansion on the studies and allows for teachable moments, definitely. It does. Great. Thank you for that. So now we're going to just do a quick overview, a refresher of session 1, just to remind you all of what we discussed yesterday. And we discussed the difference between curriculum and assessment. And I'll just read the bullets for both. So the curriculum, creative curriculum, is research-based. It defines the approach for learning. It creates a foundation. It is based on research on how children develop best and learn best. It defines your role as the teacher, and it identifies the experiences children need in order to learn, right? So it gives you a great, strong foundation to support children's growth and development. The assessment portion is embedded throughout the curriculum. It's ongoing, so it'll be throughout the entire year. It's naturalistic, so in the sense it doesn't interfere with the children's playing. It allows you to gather information in a very informal but structured way. It's observation-based, so you're going to be actually recording what you see the children do and what you hear them saying. And it's during their playtime, so it's play-based. You want to observe them playing. It provides a system to gather information in a very structured way. And it's also developmentally appropriate. So those are the two components of creative curriculum. And now we're going to go over the characteristics of the curriculum. Once again, it's supportive for both the teachers and the children. It's comprehensive, and it covers all content areas and areas of development. It's research-based, and it's based on the most current research in regards to what's best for children's growth and learning. It's integrative and cohesive, which means that it's interwoven throughout the curriculum, throughout the studies in a very meaningful way. It's individualized, making it easy to provide differentiate instruction to all children, and it's effective in teaching all children. It's respectful of teachers, right? It views you as an adult learner, so it doesn't actually tell you exactly what to do. It gives you a format, a framework to implement, and it allows you to bring in your creativity and your learning and your teaching style. And it's flexible. It offers something for everyone. There's enough detail in the curriculum to support the beginning teacher. There's enough opportunities for choices and decisions, making this effective for teachers who are seasoned. And it also gives you an opportunity to refine your teaching skills. So it offers a lot. So I'm just going to go over briefly the components of the curriculum that we talked about yesterday. So in the curriculum, you have 3 kits that you should have received. And they're the foundation. There's 6 volumes that serves as the knowledge building resources. And this offers the what and why of the curriculum. So there's the foundation book, the interest areas, literacy, mathematics, science, technology, social studies, and the arts, and the objectives for development and learning books. So there's 6 of those that talk about the what and why of the curriculum. Then you have the intentional teaching cards that provide scaffold experiences in literacy and mathematics, physical development, and social emotional development. And these cards provide a variety of activities, and they connect with the objective of learning and development. Then you have the Mighty Minutes, which people talk about a lot. They provide quick games, songs, and activities that support learning during transition times. And as we know, during this COVID-19 period, there are a lot of transitions that take place from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. So the Mighty Minutes will definitely come in handy. You can keep them in your pocket. You can put them in a place where you can quickly take them out and use them. Then you have the book discussion cards that provide guidance for implementing high quality, repetitive read alouds. And the book discussion cards offer questions and focus areas for each book that's in the collection. And within the collection of books, there's 75 books. And if you have the bilingual curriculum, there are also 150 books in there. And these include beloved classics, contemporary works from authors, original nonfiction books, and they feature a variety of different topics. And then you have the teaching guides. These provide guidance and daily plans for implementing the studies for the children. And within that, there is, each study is broken down into a week at a glance, and they also have a daily breakdown. And there's 6 studies. Can someone just tell us the 6 studies real quick? You can unmute yourself. Anyone know the 6 studies off the top of your head?
What are the 6 studies in the creative curriculum?
Yes. Can you tell us what they are?
Literacy, mathematics, science and technology, social studies, arts and English.
Development and social, emotional, physical, language, cognitive, literacy, mathematics.
So actually, those are the volumes that make up the foundation of creative curriculum. And those are the knowledge building resources. They offer an explanation on the what and why of creative curriculum. But I was referring to, so that's correct, but I actually was referring to the studies that are used to guide the activities, right, that you use to create lessons, daily lessons, and activities for the children. So can anyone name those? One is trees. Does anyone know any of the other ones?
Clothing.
Clothing, yes, the beginning of the year. Great.
Science. No.
I saw building is another one.
Literacy.
And balls. And there's one more. Yes, recycle. Great, great, great. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So once again, I don't want you to get confused. Right, and we said buildings, correct. Wonderful, thank you. So we have the 6 studies, which are beginning of the year, balls, trees, buildings, recycle, reuse, and clothing, right? Those are the resources that you use to create the lessons and activities for the children. And then you have the other foundation books, and they serve as knowledge building resources to explain the what and why of creative curriculum. Okay? So great. Thank you for participating in that. So far, are there any questions?
Let's get this done.
Okay, so now that we've been able to review session 1, we're going to move along. And the next thing we're going to talk about is your learning environment. The learning environment is a large piece of the curriculum framework. The physical environment of your classroom has a profound effect on individual children. For example, if a classroom is too cluttered and busy, it can negatively impact a child's ability to focus on tasks. So in the foundation book, you actually have an interest areas, you have the foundation, and then you have an interest areas book that you see on the screen. You have 2. So there's some information about how to set up your classroom in the foundation book. It's in chapter 2. And it does talk about how the physical setting should be safe, attractive, comfortable, and well-designed. It helps children to engage in the activities that you offer. Such an environment can support your goals for children and free you to observe and interact with them in more positive ways that support their development and learning. So you want to make sure that you have separate interest areas with a variety of materials to offer them for their free choice time. So again, I would look on page 52 of your foundation book. That's where chapter 2 is, and that's the section for your physical environment. So it's going to give you guidance on how to set up the interest areas, how to do displays and label materials, what types of classroom displays should be up, what seating should be like, a circle time area, and accommodations for any children with disabilities. So this is something that might look a little different. Given with COVID-19 happening right now, you might have less materials out than you normally would, and we understand that. Like we talked about yesterday, you're going to each have an instructional coach in your classroom that's going to help you implement the curriculum. But we know that, and they know that during COVID-19, you might have to have less materials because of cleaning purposes. You might have to rotate more materials in and out. we understand that. You might also, be rearranging your classroom to accommodate more social distancing. You might have more visual cues for social distancing, and we're going to take all of that into account this year. So any questions so far about just what areas you should have? Your interest areas should definitely include dramatic, dramatic play, blocks, toys and games, art, books, writing, like a library area, sand and water, and you should have a discovery table, which is also creative curriculum. Now, there are activities for cooking, music, and technology. They expect activities to be implemented for those areas. However, if space is limited, they don't have to be their own interest area. Those materials can be part of other areas. So like music could be in with dramatic play if you don't have space for music to have its own center. Your technology, you could put the computer in maybe the library area where it's quiet, where somebody can sit quietly. So you don't necessarily have to have a cooking learning center or interest area and a music interest area. You can kind of combine those as needed. You just still want to make sure that you have those materials to offer if children want to do those activities. So what is an interest area? I know, in Pennsylvania, we've kind of always called them learning centers, but basically interest areas are, it's an area dedicated to a specific thing. So it's very similar to a learning center in the sense that it's going to be blocks, dramatic play, art, library, water, sand and water, music and movement, cooking. So you're going to have all of the same areas that we always had as learning centers, but they're just going to be defined a little bit differently and kind of be more defined within your classroom. So you really want to work with your instructional coach on how to have those designated areas for children to play and how many children you want in each area based on the size of your classroom or your program. So again, here are the 10 interest areas: blocks, dramatic play, toys and games, art, library, discovery, sand and water, music and movement, cooking, technology, and don't forget about your outdoor space. That is also a place where children learn and play. So you want to make sure you're including that as well. So again, when space is limited, areas such as computers can be combined with library, cooking could be brought out instead of being left out as its own interest area. You want to be able to be flexible and focus on the areas that are more, that you can't, you want to keep dramatic play, you want to keep blocks because those are not ones that you can move in and out easily. But something like cooking, you can bring that stuff out when you need to use it. Music, you can bring that stuff out when you need to use it. So, just be mindful of how much space you have and what you can leave out as an interest area and what you can't.
Now we're going to talk about the ideal schedule. The daily schedule blocks out time and establishes a sequence of routines and experiences for children. When the daily schedule suits the children's individual and group needs, classroom life proceeds smoothly and is enjoyable for everyone. A good schedule for preschool children is balanced. It offers choices and a range of activities, some initiated by children and others planned by the teacher. A daily schedule establishes the consistency that helps children predict the sequence of events and thus to feel more secure and in control of the events. In deciding your schedule, start with the fixed times of the day that cannot be changed. For example, a fixed time may be lunch or even shared playground outdoor time when it's available for your class. Keep in mind, the developmental abilities of your children. And this can help guide your daily schedule and also include times for transitions as well. So when we think about the daily schedule, it's important for us to think about some guidelines for the schedule. Number one, offer a balance of quiet and active activities throughout the day. And here's an example of a PHL pre-K schedule. Allow for at least 60 minutes within that day of choice time. And this will allow children to become deeply involved in their play. And hopefully you have some time for outdoor playtime in your schedule. And hopefully you have time to add at least 2 to 3 read alouds per day. And also include time for teaching literacy and math skills intentionally throughout the day. So are there any questions about the schedule and playing the schedule? We know things have changed due to COVID-19, of course. And so we wanted you to look at the schedule to think about how that example can work for you. If it was helpful, it was in the newsletter that we shared. And making sure you're able to get everything in the 5.5 hours throughout the day.
There's 2 questions in the chat box. One's more about the physical environment, one's about scheduling. So the first one is, should our centers or interest areas absolutely be labeled with these words? For example, Keystone Stars wants us to use the word manipulatives. Should I change that to say toys and games for creative curriculum? If you have the ability, I would say put both, if you have the space to put both titles. But I'm pretty sure I still see manipulatives most places, but I would talk to your instructional coach just to see if they understand that manipulatives and toys and games are the same thing. Just so that when they're marking their coaching tool, that you're getting credit for having that section in your classroom. In terms of scheduling, when making a schedule, should we include times or no? You should have 2 schedules. You should have one that looks like something like this that you're posting for adults that might be on a communication board or a family board. You could definitely put times on this. However, the one for your children that's down on their level, I would not put times on, because odds are reading clocks is not quite age appropriate yet. They're starting to realize what times are, but it's more about teaching them the order of the day. That's more important. Does that answer your question, Susan? Okay, good. And I'm not sure who asked the iPhone, I don't know who iPhone is that asked the toys, games, and manipulatives. Does that answer your question? Okay. All right. Any other questions before we move on? Okay.
So now we're going to go over some of the key resources within the creative curriculum that support daily instruction.
So let's talk about the intentional teaching cards. The intentional teaching cards give directions for meaningful, engaging small group activities. These cards also show how to adapt the activity appropriately for children of varying abilities levels. Each activity is tied to an objective for development and learning. Here's a sample of an intentional teaching card. You will see the activities in the directions and the directions on the left, the objectives on the top right, and the adaptations under the objective.
Excuse me, are they on the screen, or are you looking to the, because I don't see it on my screen.
You don't see the slide on your screen?
No.
Is anybody else not seeing the slide on the screen?
No, I see it. Does she have her phone? The same thing, same issue with yesterday. People were on their phone. They had to slide it on one side to see it.
No, I saw the first one that came up, and I saw them all yesterday. So I'm on my iPad, but I don't see I don't see it now.
Oh, interesting. It's
Here,
here.
let me stop and just reshare. Let me see if it kicks on for you.
Okay, got it.
You can see it? Okay, perfect. Can everybody else see it? Anybody else have any issues? I want to make sure it's good before we...
phone, I can see it.
Okay, great. All right.
Thank you, Alyssa.
You're welcome.
You're rude.
Sometimes it just gets stuck.
Yeah. Okay, next.
Okay.
Including all children show adaptation for advanced learners, children with disability, and children who are English or dual language learners. The intentional teaching cards also have the progression of each age level. For our purpose, you will focus on the green and blue sessions. Those are the children that we teach, 3s and 4s.
Okay. So now we're going to talk about transitions. And we know transitions are a major part of the day, and they take up a lot of time. And we want to help you make the most of the transitions and hopefully make the transitions into a learning experience. And so this slide indicates some research that was done at the National Center for Research on Early Childhood Education, and it showed that a lot of children spend a lot of time in transitions. Like 1/3 of the day, 34%, is spent during transitions for personal care routines. Eating meals, participating in personal care routines like going to the bathroom, hand washing, maybe drop off and pick up. And, there's a lot of time. And also when teachers are possibly cleaning up, disinfecting and sanitizing. So we want to make sure that you're able to maximize that time and make it into a learning experience. Do you all agree with these numbers? Do you think that a lot of your time during the day is spent with routines more than anything else? What do you think about those numbers? Someone said yes, 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 yes. I see it. Yeah. Right. Yes. So Creative Curriculum gives you a great resource, and it's the Mighty Minutes. The Mighty Minutes are a great resource to help you have smooth transitions. Again, I will read what it says about the Mighty Minutes. Mighty Minutes explain short activities with songs, chants, rhymes, and games. They help you turn every minute of the day into a learning opportunity. Mighty Minutes can be used anywhere to teach language, literacy, math, science, social studies, or physical skills during the in-between times, such as when you're preparing to go outside, gathering the children for a large group, or during personal care routines. Okay, the Mighty Minutes are available in both English and Spanish. These activities are short, they're fun and interactive, and they're a perfect way to encourage development in young children. So here's an example of one. It's Mighty Minutes number 31. It's what's inside the box. So once again, the Mighty Minutes relate to the objectives for development and learning, and it's listed there. Demonstrates positive approaches, and they give you an activity. They have number 1, number 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay? So they're great to use throughout the day. You can put them in your pockets. You can, have them in an easy-to-go place to use them. Here's another example of another one. This one is about a math skill. It's Objective 20, uses number, concepts, and operations. And this one actually involves a chant. and it helps the children learn about counting. Okay, so they're excellent to use. Does anyone have any comments about using the Mighty Minutes? Has it been helpful for you? For those of you that used them last year? You can unmute yourself to share. Put it in the chat box.
I'm sorry, can you repeat? I was reading the card. What was your question?
I was saying for those of you that have used them, can you give us some feedback? Has it been helpful using the Mighty Minutes? Someone said, I love them. They're quick transition activities. It's really helpful.
And reading this one, that's why I was so engrossed in reading this one, because I'm going to be going virtual. This is something that I can also use there.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this year with COVID, I think we're going to see a lot more transition activities needed, just because whether you're virtual or in person, like kids are washing hands, you're waiting for kids to get on Zoom, or like there's going to be more transition times in our lives where we're going to, I think, need these little filler activities. So this should definitely be a resource that you go to throughout the day.
So someone said it's helpful, especially when a child is struggling to transition or having a hard time. Mighty Minutes are very helpful, and the children really enjoy them. Mm-hmm. We find them really helpful. It's been very helpful and also cuts down on the wait time for children. I really enjoy them. Great for in-between times. Yeah.
Great.
And there's a whole stack of them. How many are there? It's like a whole stack.
Over 100, I think.
Yeah.
And they're some of them are double-sided, so
right. Yeah, they're a lot.
I was going to say that I was using curriculum during the toddler, not the pre-K, but it did help also and during circle time, because some of them were like they had to act out and be active. Like I think there was one card that was like a tree. You had to be a seed first, so it's like we kind of balled up, and then we slowly started to kind of like form and stand up into like a tree. Mm-hmm. So that was definitely helpful during circle time.
Yeah, that's great. Somebody asked, would using an alarm clock help them with transitions? You can use a timer or some type of cue to let kids know it is time to transition, say clean up or line up. But the idea of the Mighty Minutes is, think about it this way. If you have a timer go off to tell children to line up, you're still then, those kids who are lined up waiting for the other kids are still just waiting. So this is where, once the timer goes off, you could be doing a Mighty Minutes with the children who are getting ready and lining up while the rest of the children are coming. So it fills that wait time after your cue goes off. So the alarm could be your cue, but then the activity fills the wait time after. Does that make sense? I think it was Annie who asked that question. Yes. Okay, great. They definitely both could help you if that helps. Any questions? Going once, going twice. All right, we're going to take a 5-minute break for everybody to get up and stretch. And then when we come back, we are going to be talking about the studies. Yay. So feel free to mute yourselves and turn off your camera as needed, as this will be about 5 minutes, and then we will continue.
I'm sorry, I did have a question.
Sure.
For the Mighty Minute cards, how many are you allowed to use per day? Or is it just the one that it says, I guess that's connected with the curriculum for that day?
They give
it's really up to your, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, it's up to your discretion. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they give you options and they do give suggestions in the creative curriculum. But I think, it allows you to choose what works best for the children in your classroom and allows you to actually make those decisions. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Go ahead, Liz. I'm sorry.
Nope. I was literally going to say the same thing. I would use the one that they give you as a suggestion first, maybe. And then if you need more than one in a day, use whatever ones you feel are appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right. So we'll be back in 5 minutes. If you have not already done so, please make sure you put your full name, your program name, and your registry ID number in the chat box for you to get credit for both days. If you don't, I can't prove you're here, so please, please help. And I'll see you in 5 minutes.
Feel the weight of your body on your chair or cushion. Begin by finding a comfortable posture. Lean slightly forward and back to one side and then the other. Find a comfortable balance as you come back to the center. Now, sitting up straight, feel your head on the top of your neck. How can you sit so that your head, neck, and back feel most comfortable? Take a few deep breaths. While you are breathing deeply, relax your shoulders, your stomach muscles, the muscles in your face and your hands and your legs. Let go of all the tension in your body. Now bring your attention back to your breath. Where do you feel it most? In your nose or your stomach? In the rise and fall of your chest? Just notice where you feel it most and allow your breathing to be natural and relaxed. Now, notice what the breath feels like as it enters through your nose, goes down your throat, filling your lungs, and back out through your nose. Notice your stomach and chest rise and fall with each inhale and exhale, and allow your breathing to be natural and relaxed. Now bring your awareness to the sensation of your breath in your nose. Feel your breath as it comes in and goes out. Just focus on this sensation, paying attention to each inhale and exhale. When your mind wanders or if you become distracted, just notice what's going on in your head and then gently bring your attention back to your breath, going in and out. Focus on the sensation of your breath in the foreground, allowing thoughts and feelings to come and go in the background. Now gently bring your attention back to the touch of your body on your seat and open your eyes.
Okay. So give everybody a minute to get back on. Let's see. If you have not already done so, please make sure you're signed in. Sorry, 1 second. There we go. I was stuck. I apologize. Whoops. It's being temperamental today. I apologize. All right, so welcome back from our 5-minute break. Hopefully everyone by now has signed in with your name, your program name, and your registry ID. Please and thank you. And now we're going to talk about implementing a study. So we've reviewed all of the parts from yesterday, and we've kind of gone on to talk about, some of the other pieces of the curriculum. So now we're going to talk about how the curriculum is structured through studies. They are in-depth investigations of topics that are accessible to preschool students. Studies are in-depth investigations. So during a study, students are going to investigate topics and learn more about them through meaningful activities and experiences. All of the studies, again, like we talked about yesterday, are relevant to them. They are things that they are going to experience in their lives. The primary purpose of a study is to help students learn how to find answers to their questions. So we're teaching them those investigative skills that they're going to need later in life. We're not just, when they ask a question, giving them the answer. We're saying, let's find out together. So we talked yesterday briefly about the difference between studies and themes, and I'm just going to go over this quickly so that we kind of get our brain back in studies mode. So again, studies are the topic emerges from children's interest. The children and the teacher determine what to investigate together. The teacher uncovers the topic with the children, and the study's duration is based on the children's level of interest. Again, they structure it so it can be anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. Themes would be where the teacher determines the topic, the teacher presents the topic to the children, the teacher determines the theme's duration, and the teacher decides what will happen each day. So if you break that down and you look at it, broadly, themes are very teacher focused and studies are more child focused. So in the first session, we discussed the beginning of the, or we didn't discuss the beginning of the year. I take that back. So we discussed studies as a whole. The reason we're going to go through the beginning of the year study next, and that one is a little bit different. But the rest of the studies followed this 3-part format where we're doing exploration, investigation, and then celebration. So we talked a little bit about that yesterday, but we're going to go in more detail now. So again, here are your study guides or your teaching guides. Each is a different study. So you have the beginning of the year study, which is the one that would be happening basically right now. Those of you who have started your school year, this would be the first one you'd implement because it gives you your structure for the year going forward. Then from there, you could do these in whichever order you want. You have ball study, the building study, reduce, reuse, recycle, and trees. And we did talk about yesterday, there are additional studies that you can purchase if you want to.
So like Alyssa was saying, everything starts with the beginning of the year. And later in the session, we will be going over the other studies. At the beginning of the year, study is a little different from the other stories because it is not investigative. This study helps set the tone of the classroom community. It's what you want the children to learn and to take from your classroom for the school year. Many of you already have started the school year, so have most likely you used it already. Would you like to share how was it? What did they learn? You want to share any ideas or activities that you did with the children? Because at this point, this is week 3 of this year, the school year. So feel free to unmute yourself and share activities that you did for the beginning of the school year, or you can put on the chat. Anyone? How do you introduce a classroom to the children? Remember, this is new for them. You know, many of you might be the new teacher for them, or they might be new completely in your center. There's new children, new everything. And we're living in new times right now for them too. It's different.
So in our classroom, we're doing the beginning of the school year study, and we've already gone over the importance of the classroom environment, how they should interact in it. We've gone over new friends and what everybody told what their names meant. We looked up everybody's name for their meanings, and we shared that with each other just as a getting to know you. Things like that so far. It's only been really a week and a half.
Okay. Okay, someone here says classroom tour, creating classroom rules as a group. That's a good idea to do it together. So it's their idea, not the teacher's idea. Pictures and word schedules. Explain how to play and keep the toys tidy. That's also a good one to do.
I was going to say also, I have in my classroom that the name tags are visible for their cubbies so that they can kind of get familiarized with where they're supposed to be, especially with social distancing. We do every other cubby. So we have their name tags on the outside. So we, when they walk in, we explain, okay, this is your cubby every day, and there's your name tag. So it kind of gets them familiar with seeing their name somewhere in the room, because I think that's one of the activities in the beginning book where it asks the child to locate their name somewhere in the classroom and post it on the board.
Sure, and that also helps them to meet their peer, like to put a name with a face and recognize their peers' names. Here says tour the learning centers, discuss materials, schedules, and rules. That's a good one too. Okay.
We've also done like the welcome songs to kind of like basically introduce each child's name, and then after introducing them, I may go and ask each individual child to kind of name their friend again that we've already said their names for, and then I'll also include my name as the teacher, and that's what my name is at the end.
Well, again, mine is a little different because I haven't started yet. I think my first day virtually is going to be Monday. So I think I'm going to introduce them as welcome them to the first day of virtual learning in preschool. And I'm going to tell them my name and good morning and how excited I'm going to be here and go through all of that. And then I'm going to say to them, ask them, I wonder how, how you're feeling today, and I have a shirt that I bought that I am a nervous Rex, and I got a big dinosaur in it, and I'm going to tell them, today I was a little nervous, but then I'm going to go through some rules, because there are some rules also on virtual learning. I have a picture of a microphone, whereas I have an X on it, and I will tell them when you see this, that means turn it off, and when you see the other one that I have, that means turn it on so that I can hear what you're saying. And some of the rules are that I have, I have several rules, and one of them are like to make sure your video was on so that I can see you, and a few other rules are like make sure you're on time, and I have a clock, a big yellow clock, I'm going to have my 10 o'clock time on it to be on time, and to tell them that's because so they don't miss anything. I want to have them sitting in one spot so that I can hear them and see them. And raise your hand when you want to have something to say. and listening with your ears and your eyes, and I'll have some, I'll be dramatic with it all, So, I'm going to do some things like that. And I have a good morning song, which I may not introduce on Monday because I have some other things I want to do. But on Tuesday, I will introduce the good morning song to them and go over introducing themselves, children introducing themselves, and yeah. And I think at their home assignment, I printed out a sketch of a big square life where I want them to talk about their draw a picture of their first day of school, and then on Tuesday we'll discuss that, and I'll do one. So and go through the week with some other things, but that's how I'm going to begin.
Right. Yeah, I think virtually is definitely going to be a little bit different, but
yes.
Now, do you have the beginning of the year guide?
I do.
Okay, so yeah, you can at least use that for some ideas and how to
get
aligned with creative curriculum as much as you can.
So I agree with one that the couple of ladies there about going through the rules in the beginning. It's not only 1 week for the whole month of September, introducing themselves and their friends, as well as one of the part of the beginning rules teaching guide. This one, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if you're able to see it because of my background, but it does help you, kind of guide you to like have a question during your morning meeting, like question of the day. So that was a good lead of having a question of the day based on the book that you read out loud, or since it's the beginning of the school year, that kids have a lot of questions to ask about. So that was the very good leading part.
Good. And then anybody who is, so Sandra, I know you're virtual. Have you gotten the remote learning templates? There's a couple lesson plans that are in the newsletter as like an example of a creative curriculum lesson done virtually. Have you seen it?
Yes, I did talk to a coach yesterday, so we'll,
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Moving on.
Okay. So, yeah, so the beginning of school year, this study needs to be done like within the first several weeks, 3 weeks of the school year, and during the children will, there's activities for the children to learn how to say goodbye to the families, become familiar with the classroom and school routines, learns to become part of the classroom community, deal with strong emotions, especially strong emotions, because what we are living right now, about the school, and have many questions about their new surroundings. So on the book also, you will see they have samples of like checklist of things that you need to be considered or you should be having in your classroom to create the classroom as a community. For all purposes, there are several checklists provided, like I said earlier, to you to help guide the building of those relationships. Like, for example, welcome the families to the program. Obtain and contain information of the family. Maybe ask parents to bring a picture of the mom and dad and the family, or the family members they have in the house. Develop a plan for storing children and family information. Send a welcome letter to the families and post picture of yourself and the families. Also, there's a card with a checklist for plan your daily schedule that will provide you to have the routines for your classroom. And for example, define out the school and center schedule and get a specific time for the following arrival, meal and snack, outdoors, nap over time, and other factors like the schedule that we discussed earlier. Reviewing the school curriculum, the creative curriculum for preschool 1, the foundation chapter 2, and the appendix for various of schedules. Begin a rough draft of your daily schedule. Start with a fixed time, such as arrival, departure, or lunch, and other events. Include time for large group activity, choice time, small group, read aloud, and large group roundout. and create your daily schedule using pictures and words. And they also give a sample there too. And the plan for each time of your day, like I said, arrival and departure, create a daily sign and sign-in sheets for children to write or scribble their names, create a sheet for families to sign their children in and place it next to the children's sheets, create an age-appropriate and interactive attendance chart, and review intentional teaching cards, goodbye for strategies on supporting children during arrival. Large group, decide what will be included in your opening routine. For example, you may sing a welcome song, and then review the children attendance chart before having a group discussion about the study topic. If your program requires you to say the Pledge of Allegiance, you can do this during your opening routine. Reviewing the teaching strategy 90 minutes for welcome songs such as Hello Friends that you can use during the opening routine, and determine where to hold your large group meetings if your classroom is not large enough to dedicate a separate area for the group meeting. Use one of the largest interest areas such as a block or library area. And make sure you have access to electrical outlets near the large group meeting area. Read the Creative Curriculum Preschool Volume 1, the Foundation Chapter 2 and 4 to get sense of what activities will occur during the large group activity time. The 5 teaching guides that complement beginning of the school year and will explain what to do during the large group time. Meals and snack. To talk to a veteran teacher, your coach or mentor, to refer to Volume 1, Chapter 2 about the progress and guidelines of mealtime in your program. Locate where children eat meal and snacks, and this might look different now because of COVID and the social distancing, and locate the child and adult size cleanup supplies. If meals are served in the classroom, you will want them ready and available. Caring for self and classroom, make a sign with pictures and words demonstrating the step for proper hand washing. Learn a hand washing song or chant to use the first few weeks as children learned the procedures. Again, also, this is very important because of what we're happening right now, to hand washing and proper hand washing, teach proper hand washing to the children. So for plan on ongoing observation-based assessment, create a system for recording and storing observation notes. Browse through Volume 6, Objective for Development or Learning. Identify the color band that is associated with age group or class grade you teach. Become familiar with information related to the color band. And review the objectives and dimension in Volume 6, Objectives for Development and Learning.
I have a question. Does anybody remember what colors we work with? Anybody remember?
Green and blue.
Green and blue. Good
Yay.
job. Good job, everybody.
Yep. So put in the chat box too. Green and blue.
Yep. Green and blue. All right. So to stem off of Zaida, creating a classroom community. So a well-planned environment, a predictable daily schedule, and an engaging, developmentally appropriate experience help children to learn many of the valuable skills they need in order to succeed in school. So in addition to planning intentional content-focused experiences, teachers must also intentionally work with children to develop social emotional competencies. So everything teachers do creates a positive social environment in the classroom. We promote children's social emotional skills. We help children become competent, enthusiastic learners, make a profound difference in the way children experience school. So you really want your classroom to be a community. You want them to feel welcome. You want them to have a place and feel like they are part of the group. So in order to do that, we want to focus on a few things. So positive guidance is the process of establishing and maintaining responsible, productive, and cooperative behavior in children while being respectful and caring. So when you have realistic expectations for children, you can gently guide their behavior in ways that show respect and help them feel good about themselves. That is using positive guidance. So positive guidance, again, focuses on promoting self-regulation skills in young children to help children experience the benefits of managing feelings and behavior rather than focusing solely on a behavioral outcome. So to do that, Creative Curriculum has provided us with some social emotional intentional teaching cards. And you'll see at the top right-hand side of these, they actually have SE with a number, and that's how you'll know they're the social emotional ones. If you have a brand new kit that hasn't been opened yet, I think they're packed separate, I'm pretty sure. So you want to just look for those SE cards for any social emotional. So some points to remember. Young children's social emotional development involves the way they feel about themselves, their understanding of feelings, and their ability to regulate emotions and express them appropriately. Their capacity for building relationships with others is also important. Social emotional development flourishes when children have close, supportive, and trusting relationships with adults. When adults are responsive and when they share in the pleasure of children's accomplishments and discoveries, and when they create an environment in which children can actively participate and explore, they show children that they, the children, are important, interesting, and competent. Through positive interactions, children learn about themselves and how to relate to others. Children need adult guidance to help them learn what is acceptable and what is not. Effective guidance keeps children safe, prevents behavior problems, helps children learn to control their behavior, and builds a solid foundation for children's positive interactions with others. So if you have all of your books available, Volume 6, which is the Objectives for Development and Learning, there are relevant objectives and dimensions to social emotional. So you could look those over to see what would be appropriate for your children. And as you're using gold too, you'll get more familiar with the objectives for development and learning. Okay. So think about, is this positive guidance? And you can either put yes or no in the chat box, or you can say it out loud as they come up on the screen. Use your words. Is this positive guidance?
No.
No. Anybody else? No. Why not? Why do you think no? Anybody want to elaborate?
Because maybe they may have a problem expressing themselves through words.
Right. Our children are just learning words. Like they're, especially those new 3-year-olds, like they might not have the words yet. So if you're teaching your words, they might not know what words to use. So this is where you could guide them. And you could say, if it is an older child who does know how to express themselves, you can say, use your words. What can we say? Like you can elaborate on this and not just say, use your words. It comes off aggressive, or they may be shy. That is great. That's a great comment in the chat box. Was somebody else talking? Okay, let's bring on.
Alyssa, I think it's more about what everything is based on your tone. So using your word does not necessarily mean it's negative.
Yes.
At the same time, because we have a lot of English learners, and after a certain time, we know that they know how to say, they use like a different language, and we say, use English. What is it you're trying to say?
Right, and I think you're right. It's your
say
tone.
some of them are baby talk. They're so used to baby talk, and we say, you have to use your words. Say it slowly.
Right. And I feel like that's different. You're right. You're not just saying use your words and walking away. You're trying to get them to use the right words.
Yes.
In the right language, or, you know, and I think it's tone and it's how you support that conversation.
Exactly, yes. So
Yeah.
So Creative Curriculum actually has an intentional teaching card, SE17, that says supporting children to use their words. And it does help you guide, it helps guide that conversation, actually. It gives you some steps on how to support children who are trying to find the right words.
And
Go
also,
take a time out.
can I also share something?
Of course.
And also, yes, I do agree with everything that everybody's saying, but it's also, it's a teacher, you know, saying, you know, okay, we say it this way, or this is named this way, or we call this whatever. Like, we can also put the words in their mouth so they learn the words and they can start learning new words or vocabulary or the correct words to use when, you know, asking or pointing out to something. Yes.
And I think we can ask them too, do you know what words you want to use? Like, kids know. They're going to be like, no, I don't know what to say here. Like, they'll tell you. I think sometimes we just forget to ask them, like, what are you trying to say? Like, do you know what you're trying to say? So yeah, it's the tone, it's how you guide that conversation.
Yes, I was going to also say, wouldn't it just also depend on the age group? Because, you know, sometimes a child just might be like upset, like crying. And it's, I know sometimes we use the words, use your words to kind of express, like, you know, that they're sad, or like someone hit them or something like that, or someone took a toy away from them. So my question is, so are we allowed to use that, like use your words in that way?
I would be careful how you use it and you know your children best, but be careful of your tone and make sure you're guiding the conversation.
Okay.
You're not just saying use your words and expecting the child to just do it. Like,
yeah.
Because odds are, if they could do it, they wouldn't be crying. They're trying to find a way to express themselves.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Somebody raise a hand. Evelyn Cardona raised your hand. No? I got a notification. That
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yes. How about if the child is not vocal? Can I ask him? Can you show me?
Yes, that would be excellent because you're helping.
Okay.
You're trying to help them express themselves in a way that's appropriate for them. That's perfect.
Okay. Okay.
Perfect. All right, so let's do another one. This is good. Oh, if it lets me. Well, go take a time out. Is that positive guidance?
No. No.
Yeah.
No.
Good, good. I love the nose. Thank you, guys. All right, so there is an intentional teaching card called Related Consequences. It talks about there are consequences for your actions, but obviously timeout is not appropriate for group care. We know that, you know, we've learned a lot through child development. So this kind of gives, it helps explain to children that there are consequences for your actions, but timeout is not what we're doing in school, basically. But they might have time out at home. Like, they need to understand that there may be time out at home. It depends on their home life. So if that is the case, they may say, but mommy does time out, and you can explain that there is a difference. How about good job? Is that positive guidance?
I think the same. You need to follow up with more detail about good job on what exactly.
Excellent. Yes, you want to give encouragement, but you want to give specific encouragement. You want to tell them what they're doing a good job at, because they might have done 5 things in the last 5 minutes. Which one was good? So you want to make sure that you're specific with, you did a great job at, and fill in the blank.
Yes.
Yes, very good. Specific praise, specific, precise. Good job. How about you have to share? Is that positive?
No.
No.
Do they have to share?
No.
Not technically, no. But teaching them that, you know, when is it appropriate? How do we play together? Giving them more guidance and more clarity on what that means to play together and what is sharing, and when do we share? When do we not want to share? How can we express ourselves properly when we don't want to share? You know,
I'm sorry, Alyssa, there is like a term that was used in the second step. So if there's only one item, they should take turns. We have to use the terminology and be in sync. So like if they have one item, they should take turns using, and you kind of give them, hey, 5 minutes. The kid doesn't have a concept of time.
Yes.
So in their mind, 5 minutes could be a long time. And then when you ask them, when it's, really to time's up and say, you said, are you ready? More likely, they're more ready to pass it on to the next kid.
Right.
But if they have more than one item where they could play together, that's when you said you could play together. There's a lot to play together and everything.
Right. And
but that's when you play together. You could share. I mean, they understand that concept.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but timing, I have told them in my classroom, okay, I'm going to put the timer on 5 minutes, and when the bell goes off, that means you have to pass it on to your friend. And so the bell will go off, and they'll look around, look at me, and they'll say, okay, it's time to pass. And they know that, it's time to pass it to their friend, and they do it willingly,
Yeah, and I think giving the idea of sharing and taking turns is definitely key there, especially if there is only one of something. And then explaining how to play together. Right.
I have a question. How would you apply that for virtual learning? Like, would you kind of just speak to them through, like, if their class is online, would you kind of just speak to them about, sharing when once, together again in school, or how would you go about that conversation?
For virtual learning, you could definitely, you could do turn taking based on who's speaking. We take turns speaking, muting and unmuting ourselves. And then with sharing and playing together, maybe you could find a book or a story about sharing and playing together, and then relate that conversation and have that conversation about when was the time you've played with somebody that you wanted to share or you didn't want to share, and have more of a discussion about it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right, let's see. I think there's one more. Oh, conflict resolution is the other card that can support when they, when they don't want to share and they're upset about it. How can we talk through the problem solving steps? How can we solve this problem and come to a solution together? So that is where, you might want to say, okay, if you don't want to share, what can we do? What can you do while you wait? And when we're done, what should you do? If the timer goes off, what do you do? So those will all help you guide those conversations. So obviously within our classroom, rules are necessary. Rules and limits are necessary for young children because they need to know how to explore. They're starting to explore their independence, but they need to know what their limits are, what's safe, what's not safe. So we still are going to have rules within our classrooms. So we want to have a process together where we create rules. If the children can be involved, that's definitely a better situation. So the idea of big rule, little rule is actually one of the social emotional cards. And it talks about creating a classroom community that is safe, where children can be protected from physical and emotional harm. So you're creating your rules. And I think most of you, or most people that I've seen, most classrooms that I've gone into, kind of use like the 5-finger rule. They do 5 or less. Like, you don't want to have 20 rules. The children aren't going to remember that. But there should be, the big rules, and then obviously there's like subdivisions of that. So a big rule might be, keeping our bodies safe, but that could also mean, keeping your hands to yourself, not kicking, not shoving, and we want to keep it positive. We want to say what we want them to do, not what we don't want them to do. So your rule should always say, keep your body safe, not no kicking, no hitting, no shoving. You don't want those no's and those don'ts. You want to tell them what your expectation is, not what they shouldn't do. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So big things to remember. You want to focus on maintaining physical safety. You want to focus on respecting the rights of others and respecting those people, the other children in the classroom. Not hurting feelings of others. And caring for the classroom as a whole. How do we take care of each other and our space? You really want it to be kind of like a democracy. Everybody works together to keep us all safe and happy. Okay. So any questions so far about positive guidance or setting up the classroom, beginning of the year? That first 6 weeks is really just laying that foundation. And again, this is going to look different virtually for sure. And if you're doing a hybrid where you're virtual a couple of days, but in person a couple of days, you might want to tweak it as well, depending on, adding rules for virtual, adding rules for in-classroom, supporting their social emotional. Social emotional is going to be such a big focus this year. I think it was Mei Lee who mentioned the second step. Some people have a social emotional curriculum that they use in addition to creative curriculum. So like just being aware of talking about feelings. Kids have a lot of feels going on right now, just like we do. And they're little people still managing their big emotions. So it's up to us to help them express that in a good way. Okay.
So now we are going to discuss the remaining studies and the part of those studies.
There was a question in the chat box.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Sorry to interrupt. So are we allowed to have discussions about why masks are important?
Of course. It's a different time. There's lots of things going on. There's added rules, unfortunately. So yeah, you definitely want to have those discussions about why it's important. And there's some social stories and YouTube videos that can help you with that as well if you need those resources.
Okay. So like I said, we are going to continue talking about the remaining of the studies and the part of the studies. So we talk about the beginning of the school year. I'm sorry. Yeah. Never mind. Like I said, you see the table of content, it's getting started, the beginning of the study, investigating of the topic, and celebrating the learning. And there's also resources for you to have. So let's talk about the interest areas. And like we said before, the interest area are what we used to call centers or learning areas. So those now are the interest areas.
Sorry, I hit a button. Keep going.
It's okay. It's okay. Then there you will see some samples of things that you can see, and then it comes to the question of the day. You can create questions and develop questions around the studies that you are teaching or you are investigating the week, the month, For example, if you look at what we did yesterday in the video, one of the questions of the day will be, which is your favorite ball to play with? And day 2, is your ball bigger or smaller than this one? And so on and so forth. The next one is a large group. Large group, yes. Large group experiences offer children a sense of belonging to a group. In this setting, children can practice communication skills. They express their questions, ideas, and feelings and share their work. Then it is the read aloud. With read aloud, you need to plan to read aloud with children at least twice during a half-day session and 3 times during a full-day session. PHL Pre-K is 5.5 hours. That is a full-day session. Each day, your teaching guide will suggest a book from the teaching strategies children book collection. You will use that book in an interactive or shared reading experience. Small group activities or, small group. Sorry.
Oh, I have a question.
The wind blew my papers.
Okay.
Go ahead. What's your question?
I heard you say that you have to read the book that's selected from the curriculum. You can't, like, if it's fall, you can't read a book on fall. If we're talking about nature and leaves, can we talk about that? Or
you want me to answer that?
Apples, like right now, this is apple season. So you can't read your own books that you have in your library. You have to read what's in the curriculum.
You have to at least read the suggested book, but
Yes.
you're going to have more than one read aloud in a day. So you're not going to read the same book 3 times in a day. But
Okay.
you definitely should read the one that they've selected on each lesson day is there for a reason. So I would definitely read that one. But then if you want to supplement and read something related to the season or the holidays that are coming up or whatever, you definitely can add that in as well.
Correct.
Oh, okay. So curriculum, they give you you don't create your own lesson plan? They
can.
give you a lesson plan? Oh, okay.
But you want to make sure, so each item that they've selected, like if you're looking,
Okay.
hold on, let me just
I
make
don't
this.
have that yet, so let me see.
Okay, so if you're looking at the at a glance that's on the screen now, they're going to give you a suggested book and small groups and stuff. And then on the next page is like each day separated out. And they'll give you the objectives that you're meeting. So like they're focusing on different objectives for each activity. So if you are reading a different book, you want to just make sure you're tying it into the objective they're trying to match. Does that make sense?
Okay, so this is like a whole, all right.
Yeah,
I get it. So this is like a whole like, okay, I'm coming from a Maria Montessori curriculum. So I'm blending the two or dropping one.
You just want to make sure you're hitting all your objectives. So if you look at the book discussion card for that book and it says objective 16, you want to make sure you're going to read a book. If you're not going to read that book, you want to make sure you read a book that relates to that objective. So something that's going to help with, I don't know what 16 is. I pulled a number out. But like if it's about sharing, you want to make sure the next book that you're going to read is going to be about sharing.
Yeah. So you said that you asked a question, am I using both curriculum because you come from a Montessori group, school, or dropping one and taking the other one? So see it this way. Creative curriculum, it's a main curriculum. The one that PHL Pre-K is selected for all our providers to use. It has to be used. It must be used. The other one, it could be a supplementary to the creative curriculum, to support also the way that you teach in your school. So like Alyssa said, you can read other books that has something to do with the topic or the study that you are doing that week, but you must read also the suggestive book from the creative curriculum. So that's one. For read aloud, you have to have at least 3 reading alouds. One has to be the one that is suggested by the creative curriculum, and the other 2, anything that you want to read that ties to whatever topic you are teaching that day or that week.
And one more note about read alouds, they do not all have to be large group read alouds. You don't have to get the whole class together 3 times for a book. That's a lot of sitting for them. So when they say 3 read alouds, you want to try for one to be large group, but they can be small group and they can be one-on-one. They just want you to be reading to children as much as possible.
Yeah, we do small groups anyway.
Right, and that's fine.
And one good thing about the at a glance cards, along with the book cards, it gives suggestions on how to facilitate conversation with the children about the topic, right? Yeah. So I think that's a really good thing about it. It gives you teaching points. It focuses on the question of the day. It gives you options on how to facilitate the learning for the children. And that can help cut down on some time in regards to planning and finding things to do with children. They give you options that you can pull from.
And once we get through this slide, you'll see the day broken out next. That's the next thing that we'll see. So that might help explain a little bit.
Yeah, I'm looking. So if you have your own book on balls and circles or anything, you have to use your book. And you have to use we have our own philosophy, but I'll figure it out. I'll figure out how to mix the two. I don't know.
Well, and you have, because you're at Mecca, right?
Yes. So
yeah, there's other teachers that have been there, I think, that have used creative curriculum. So they might be able to help guide you on how to combine the two together.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Small groups, yes. Yep. The small group time is a period of between 10 to 15 minutes during which you will work with just a few children. You use engaging hands-on activities to intentionally teach new concepts, particularly those related to language, literacy, and mathematics. You will promote social, emotional, and physical development through this experience. So it's a few children, 3, 4, maybe 5. That's it, no more than that. So in the small group activity.
Yep. And they always give you more than one. I'm pretty sure they always give you 2 options. And then if you have another activity you want to add in that's related, you could do that here too.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so then it comes our Myri minutes. During this course of the day, there are a little chunk of times where you can use effectively the Myri minutes to recharge moments. These moments occur between activities or at the beginning or the end of another planned experience. So this is why Myri minutes are great for transition activities to avoid the long waiting period of time. Outdoor experiences, it's, the outside, the playground, community walks, and you can use the time to also expand into whatever they're learning that day and explore, play and explore. Usually on day 5 is encourage family members to come and play with the children and participate of the closing activity, but due to COVID, things might look a little bit different. Might be virtual, celebrations. We can plan virtual celebrations. The other one is family partnerships, and these are when we make the family part of our learning time. You can send home some letters to family describing what is going on and the study that is happening. You can invite family members to come and play and maybe show them things or read to them again. Now with COVID, things might look completely different, and we might be able to do this, but like virtually. And the WOW experience, which is, again, the one to invite people to your program to celebrate, what the ending of whatever study was happening that day or that week.
Sorry, this is what I was talking about when I said after the at a glance, you'll see that each day is separate.
Yeah. So here you will find the guidance for large group discussion and small group choice. So, large group is usually at the beginning, opening routine. Small group, and choice is like, as you intended with children in the interest area, make up time to read a book, to play, or explore more.
Under the read aloud, it says which discussion card to look at for that book. So again, if you're going to substitute a different book altogether and you don't want to read this book, I would just look at the discussion card to see what objectives and what's the purpose of that book. What kind of discussion are you going to be having? So that way, if you're choosing a different book, you can somehow still meet that objective or that discussion, because it's there to build off of your study. So you want to make sure it's somehow related.
Yep. And for the small group, as you see, and Lisa mentioned earlier, it gives you option 1 and option 2, and you can either do both or do one and the other, or like mix it. And then the Myri minutes, those are the follow-up guidance on the cards. And the large group around, it's recall of the day events. It's maybe like a summary of what happened. And one of the questions that you can ask is, what did you learn today? Or, what do you enjoy the most? So it's like a close-up for the day.
Yep. And somebody yesterday mentioned that you have a specific closing, like a way you close your day out. That would be done also in the large group roundup. You'd put that at the end of your day to do your closure. Same with opening. If you have a specific opening routine, that would be in your large group in the morning, and then your closing would be in the large group in the afternoon. So again, each day should start with some type of opening routine. So like I just said, you'd want to put that in your large group. It could be anything, any type of activity that you do specifically to welcome your children. If you do the Pledge of Allegiance, or if you do some type of, morning song, you would want to do that here. And you would want to set this up during that beginning of the year study guide. Like that's where you're teaching the children the routines of your classroom and your day. So you'd want to look at that beginning of the year guide on how to plan it and implement the opening routine in the way that you want to for the rest of the year, because then you're going to continue that routine through the rest of the year so that every day children know what's expected first thing in the morning. Discussion and writing should also be included within your daily activities. So this is an example on the screen of a discussion for the ball study. Show the children a few different types of balls, pass them around, encourage children to examine how the balls look and feel. Ask children to describe the balls, record their ideas. Explain, this week we will study a collection of balls and explore all of your ideas about balls. So this would be something that, this is like your investigation table here. They're looking at all the different balls. And they could even do a writing activity if you're doing journal writing. You want to have some type of writing or pre-writing activity for them to log down their ideas, or, draw a picture and put their ideas into words so that you can write down what they said. So you really want to just tie in some type of discussion and writing activity each day if you can. Choice time we talked about a little bit yesterday, I think, how it should be 60 minutes, or maybe it might have been today during scheduling. My days are blending together. But we did talk about having 60 minutes of free choice time. So this is what Creative Curriculum asks for, and this is what Eckers asks for. So you want to really make sure that you really are blocking out that 60 minutes. Now that 60 minutes doesn't include cleanup time, and it doesn't include small groups. So if you are a person who, if your schedule's set up that during free choice, you're pulling out your small group children, you want to add some buffer in. You want to add maybe that extra 15 minutes into free choice time, because once they're in your small group, they're not in free choice anymore. And that's going to count against you for ERS. It's going to count against you when your coach is doing your fidelity tool for creative curriculum. You really want to make sure you have those, every child in your classroom has 60 minutes of free choice time. Mm-hmm. Ideally, you want it to be uninterrupted, so if you don't have to put small groups there, don't. If you have another time of day that you can, but we understand, scheduling gets a little hairy here and there, depending on how your program is structured. So just make sure you're giving those children 60 minutes of free choice time. So like we said, Creative Curriculum has several read alouds throughout the day. They do not need to be all large group. Again, they can be small group, they could be one-on-one. If a child wants to read a book during free choice, you can sit and read a book with them if that's what they want to do. So especially now during COVID, I feel like we're not doing as many large group gatherings anyway. So, take advantage of this time. This is where you can do small group read alouds. It would be perfect for keeping smaller groups together in your classroom. So effective read-alouds are those in which children are actively involved in asking and answering questions and making predictions. Where children can retell or dramatize stories, they can act it out. Hear short definitions of some new words while the story is being read. Use new vocabulary to answer questions, discuss book events, and describe illustrations. Frequently engage in analytical talk. What is happening and why. Hear the same story repeated. We do that on purpose, and you're going to see that in your study guides or in your teacher guides that, you're going to see the same book read 3 times, and there's a reason for that, and we're going to get to that. So for now, to lead us into read alouds, I'm going to show you a video of somebody reading The Little Red Hen. This is one of the books from Creative Curriculum.
Hey everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful day. My day's been pretty good, but it's about to be even better because I'm so excited to read this book for you. Our book that we're going to be reading today is The Little Red Hen. Our book today was written by Bonnie Dobkin, and it was illustrated by Subhash Vora. This means that Bonnie wrote the words to our story, and Subhash drew the pictures. Let's go ahead and get started. Once upon a time, there were 4 friends who lived together in a barnyard. A dog, a goose, a cat, and a little red hen. The dog was a lively pup who liked to play all day. After all, he said, who will chase balls and do tricks if I don't? The cat was a handsome animal who liked to groom himself. After all, he said, who will take care of my good looks if I don't? The goose was a talkative bird who liked to gossip. After all, she said, who will share the news of the day if I don't? And the little red hen, she just liked to figure out what needed doing and do it. One day, the 4 friends decided to move together to a cozy cottage near the river. They were very happy there. The dog played all day in their big front yard. The goose waddled to the farmyard each morning and always came back with new stories to share. The cat washed himself on the sunny windowsill, and the little red hen, she cleaned the house, worked in the garden, cooked the food, and did whatever else needed doing. One afternoon, the little red hen swept out the shed and found a bag of wheat seeds. Excited, she brought the bag back to the cottage. Look what I found, she said. Who will help me plant these seeds so that we can have wheat to bake some bread? Not I, said the dog. I have to play with my stick today. Not I, said the cat. I have to groom my fur today. Not I, said the goose. I have to talk to the cow today. She has news about the goat. All right, said the little red hen. Then I'll plant the seeds myself. And she did. She hoed the ground and planted the seeds and watered them well and pulled the weeds. Soon a fine patch of wheat was growing tall in the sunlight. The wheat is ready for harvest, said the little red hen. Who will help me harvest it? Not I, said the dog. I have to bury my bone today. Not I, said the cat. I have to smooth my whiskers today. Not I, said the goose. I have to visit the pig today. He says there's a scandal with the sheep. All right, said the little red hen. Then I'll harvest the wheat myself. And she did. She cut the wheat, then gathered and tied it up in bundles she stacked outside. Now the wheat must be ground into flour, said the little red hen. Who will help me pull the wagon to the miller? Not I, said the dog. Today's the day I chased rabbits. Not I, said the cat. Today's the day I clean between my toes. Not I, said the goose. Today's the day the goat said he'd tell me a secret about the cow. All right, said the little red hen. I'll pull the wagon myself. And she did. She cleaned the wagon and loaded the wheat and went to the miller's down the street. The next morning, the little red hen was ready to bake. Who will help me make the dough? She asked. Not I, said the dog. I'm busy chasing my tail. Not I, said the goose. The gust might make it hard for me to talk. Not I, said the cat. The flour would muss my clean fur. All right, sighed the little red hen. Then I'll make the dough myself. And she did. She gathered up eggs, milk, yeast, and flour, then mixed and kneaded for nearly an hour. Now, said the little red hen, though she already knew the answer. Who will help me bake the bread? Not I, said the dog. It's time for me to take a nap. Not I, said the cat. I really must get my beauty sleep. Not I, said the goose. I absolutely must rest my voice. All right, said the little red hen. Then I'll bake the bread by myself. And she did. She built the fire, a difficult chore, and slid the pan through the oven door. She cleaned the mess that the baking had made and finally went out to rest in the shade. As the afternoon wore on, the wonderful aroma of baking bread drifted through the cottage. It tickled the noses of the napping dog, the sleeping cat, and the resting goose. They sniffed. They smiled. and they opened their eyes. "What is that heavenly smell?" asked the goose. "Why, it's just my fresh baked bread," said the little red hen. "Who will help me eat it?" "I will," said the dog, jumping up from his rug. "I will," said the cat, leaping down from the windowsill. "I will," screeched the goose, forgetting to rest her voice. "You will?" asked the little red hen. "But you let me do everything else. I hoed the ground and planted the seeds and watered them well and pulled the weeds. I cut the wheat, then gathered and tied it up in bundles I stacked outside. I cleaned the wagon and loaded the wheat and went to the miller's down the street. I gathered up eggs, milk, yeast, and flour, then mixed and kneaded for nearly an hour. I built the fire, a difficult chore, and slid the pan through the oven door. I cleaned the mess that the baking had made, and then, only then, did I rest in the shade. So do you know what? I think I'm gonna eat this bread all by myself." And she did. But the next time the little red hen needed help around the house, nobody said, "Not I." The end. That's the end of our story, The Little Red Hen, which was written by Bonnie and illustrated by Subash.
Okay. So, what did you notice about the way she read the book? Anybody? Anything you noticed?
It's too much music. It distracted me the whole time.
Yeah, the music is distracting. I would not be doing more than one thing at a time.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Okay, so
She was very enthusiastic, and then
very
she
enthusiastic.
also
Yep.
placed different voices with the characters.
Yes, she put different voices for each character. What else? Anything else? If you were doing this in person, what would you do different?
Stop and pause and ask questions.
Very good. You would stop, pause, and ask questions because you don't want to just read it straight through. This actually came from a program in North Carolina that does creative curriculum virtually. They started it back in March, and they finished out their school year doing it virtually. So the teachers took turns recording the stories and putting them on YouTube. And then they sent like a QR code in their lesson plans so that parents could just take a picture of the QR code and it would take them right to the video. So they were able to sit with their children and kind of hear the story together. And then they sent parents like lists of questions that they could ask their child about the story. So this was like from a very virtual platform. But in person, you would want to make sure you're asking questions, making comments. How about new words? Were there any words that you might stop to explain to children that they might not know? I can think of one for sure. Milled. That's exactly the one I was thinking of. Thank you, Annie. Yeah, they might not know what a miller is and what a miller does, and you're going to have to stop and explain what that is for them. So you want to make sure that you're explaining vocabulary.
Our poor little...
Sorry. So sorry. That's really loud. All right. So we talked a little bit. How would you introduce the book? Is there anything you would do differently than her? She pointed out the illustrator and the author and the title. Anything else she missed that you would do?
I usually ask them what they see on the cover and to tell me what they think the story is going to be about.
Good. Yes. Ask those predictive questions. What do you think it's going to be about? Identify the characters on the cover. Good.
Tell them this is the front of the book. This is the back of the book. I showed them.
You could do that as well. Anything else? We talked about comments and asking questions, vocabulary. How about the social emotional theme? What would you point out about what's going on in the story?
Kind of asking the children how do they think the hen possibly felt with, her friends not wanting to help her, or on the other hand, the other animals, how can you explain their characteristics or, I wouldn't say behavior because then they might think it's a negative effect, but more of their characteristics.
Right. Very good. I like the way you said that. Like not behavior, their characteristics. Right. You don't want to make them think negatively of the other characters, but you want to point out how would everybody feel in this story? How would you feel if you were the hen? How would you feel at the end if you were the dog and you wanted some bread? So talking about, everybody taking responsibility and working together. This could be a story, we talked a little bit earlier about if you're on a virtual platform, You know, how would you talk about working together and taking turns? And this could be a story that you could use for that, because it does talk about how the hen does everything by herself, but maybe other people need a turn doing things as well, so she gets a turn not doing things. You know, she's always the one taking care of everybody else. All right, so 4 components of a read aloud. You want to introduce the book, you want to discuss the vocabulary, have comments and questions during the reading, and after the reading you also want to have questions about what happened and how did they feel and what do you remember about the story. So each book within Creative Curriculum has a book discussion card that goes along with it. These discussion cards help guide the questions and conversations that are going to happen around your read aloud. So the books are going to be read more than once, and you're going to see that as you go through the curriculum, but the discussions are going to vary. For the first read aloud, the book discussion card is going to say to focus on the main character's thoughts and actions. So a question something you could say would be, I wonder how Little Red Hen feels about doing all the housework by herself. I think she wishes her friends were more helpful. So this would be some type of conversation. You're really going to be focused on the Little Red Hen herself. The second read aloud is where you're going to comment and ask follow-up questions regarding the other characters, the secondary characters. How do you think Dog, Goose, and Cat feel when Little Red Hen tells them they may not help her eat the bread? And then the third read aloud is where children have the chance to reconstruct the story. This is where they're going to retell it, or maybe you're going to have them act it out, depending. Some people have the little felt pieces for some of the stories, so you could do, a felt retell where the kids are involved in it. Have them tell you what happens first, what happens next, what happens after that. So you're teaching them sequencing while you're teaching them the story. They're getting to retell that story. And then you want to be sure that any definitions for the new words are child-friendly. So, when you're explaining what a miller is or what it means to mill a flour, you want to keep that definition very practical and very real life for them. So here's a list of some of the other words that might have been pointed out in the story of the Little Red Hen. So we have grooming, meaning to make clean or neat. Gossip means to talk about people who aren't there in a hurtful way or share their secrets. Hoed, you mean dug in the ground using a hoe, and you might want to show that picture of like what a hoe looks like and what is she doing with it. Harvesting, to pick foods such as wheat, vegetables, fruit when they're ready to be picked. A miller, a person who grinds meat into flour. Muss means to make messy. Kneaded, meaning to shape or fold the dough. Chores, everyday work or jobs around the house. And aroma is a smell. So those are just some ideas of some of the words. And you can even ask the children, what words don't you know? Do you know, or you could stop and say, do you know what this word means as you're reading? And then those words could become part of your word wall, or, if you have anything like that, like popcorn words that are around the room. So the supporting social emotional development section for each book discussion cards is going to show you how to use the story to support the children's development around social emotional needs, and it's going to give you the objectives for development and learning that it touches upon. So we're talking here about managing feelings and responding to emotional cues. So you can tie that back into your objectives for development and learning. And all that's in your volume 6, your objectives book.
Yes, I'm sorry. I was waiting for you. I'm sorry.
I thought so.
I'm sorry. So here are the options for small group time. So we mentioned before that there's 2 options for small group time. So here is option 1. It's comparing and describing, for example, bowls. If we're talking about the bowls. You can review intentional teaching cards, LO1, sharing writing, follow the guidance on the card using the bowl collection, invite each child to select a bowl from the collection, and all these bowls in the collection should not look the same, and they should not all bounce or roll that easily. Having a child have a child hold up the ball and describe its features. Encourage the children to talk about the texture, size, weight, etc. of their chosen ball. And as children describe their balls, ask how it is different from the last ball we talk about. How is the same? Here's option 2 for the small group time, and the option 2 features of the ball collection in words and pictures. You need to remember when planning your schedule to place a small group during its own time period, and if it is not feasible and small groups are going to be pulled during free choice time, then more than 60 minutes need to be allowed for free choice. And this is what Alisa was saying earlier. You need to be given time to buffer the time, because if you cannot have the small, if you have to have the small group while other children are having free choice time, those children that are in the small group eventually need to have their free time and choice time. So during the option 2, you review the intentional teaching card LL01, sharing writing. Follow the guidance on the card using the ball collection, but take in digital photo of each child as he or she holds the ball, and print the photos and attach them to each child didactic description of the ball. Large group roundup. So at the end of the day, you should have a final large group gathering to discuss the day's event. Like, for example, what did they learn? Recall the day's event. Encourage children who look at books about balls during choice time to share what they've learned and enjoyed about the book, and invite the children to bring in a ball tomorrow to continue to the classroom ball collection. When inviting children to bring in something or do something special for study, make sure to tell the families. Leave them a note on the sign-in sheets. Tell them at the departure time, or send home a letter. And this time days, also parents enjoy to get communication through text. Instead of taking a note home, because sometimes they don't have time to read it or they misplace it, but you can send a text, an email, to make sure parents know that children can bring things from home the following day.
Okay, so in each study guide, there's actually going to be a list of additional questions that children could ask or you want to ask to help further the investigation. So again, studies are flexible. They go anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. So if you want to add in a few days because children are still interested, but you don't have any more of their own questions to ask, then you could use some of these to help lengthen your study a little bit. And then base, the last couple of days, base it on the interest level of the children. So that way, if you do feel like they're done and they're ready to move on, you can move on from there. So this just gives you some ideas, like which balls can I throw, kick, or roll? What happens when you put a ball in a freezer? Like, these are just things that kids may or may not ask. If they don't ask them, you could still use it as an investigation. And then at the end of the study, we briefly talked about this yesterday, there should be a celebration of learning. So with this year, we may not get to create, we may not get family members in or community members in. We may not have as much of a wow experience in terms of people like we used to. So we're going to have to really get creative, I think. Some people threw around some ideas yesterday of things that they've already done. But I think this is definitely going to be a piece that we have to edit and kind of think outside the box on right now. Does anybody have any ideas of a wow experience they could do, since we're talking about the ball study, a wow experience about balls that doesn't include having people come into the program? Any ideas?
Your show and tell.
Show and tell, great. Anything else?
I feel like now that we are in this time of days and COVID, and we talk a lot of COVID, but I think we can use technology more, you know, and I mentioned before, maybe some virtual celebrations, you know, you can invite people to talk and do Zoom or
Yeah, somebody actually mentioned on
WhatsApp.
somebody mentioned on one of our other calls that we did with this, there's something called like Flip Grid or Grid Flip. It's like basically you submit a video and then everyone can see each other's videos in the class. So like the teacher would have to set it up, but it's free. And like basically you send, like maybe each child sends a video of them playing ball with their family or, you know, with their friends, or you do it at school and then send the video home, like something like that. So somebody else mentioned they use ProCare and you can send pictures and videos to parents. So, you know, that would be a great one where you can send videos out and show families what they're learning and what they've learned throughout this study. So yeah, this is definitely, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. And do like a TikTok video.
A TikTok video, yep. There's definitely tons of technology options out there for us. I think we just have to figure out what they are and what works for your families too, because everybody's families are different. They have a different level of accessibility to technology. So you really want to think of what can my families feasibly do and participate in.
But if you just you know, keep in mind that if you're going to put any video in any social media like TikTok, you need to make sure parents are okay with it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. All right. Any questions about, you know, the parts of the study and what the days look like and your pieces of your day? I know it's a lot of information and it feels like a lot if you haven't done it yet, but as you do it, it becomes a regular routine.
Yeah. And you have something, you know, that benefits you, you know, a difference to other teachers or providers that use creative curriculum. You will have an instructional coach that can help you also and guide you when you feel like you're kind of stuck and you don't know how to do some things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, putting it all together. Now that we've done all the components of the studies and daily routine, it is time to think about planning and putting everything together. The Foundation Guide has some information regarding weekly planning, and you can find that on page 85 through 89. Using the weekly planning form helps you to manage how you want to implement the curriculum. This is where you can note decisions and changes about the weekly activities. Earlier, somebody asked, you know, do I have to do a lesson plan? And the answer is yes. And you can use that form that you're looking at that we provide on the creative curriculum. You can use also your own form, I believe.
And Teaching Strategies Gold, you can also put it in there. There's like a digital version of this form where you can put your Mighty Minutes in and your large group and all that kind of stuff.
Yep, because the curriculum is just the basic ideas and all the information and all the ideas and themes, theme studies, and activities that you can use during the day. But you know your children better than anybody else. And if you are a family provider, you know you have more than one child that is not preschool, and you have to, you know, integrate them there. So, you know, you need to create your lesson plan to make any adjustments that needs to be done to accommodate your children and your children's needs. Also, to keep in mind the classroom team should work together to create and review a weekly plan. This is useful because you will be working together to note observation about children, and you each will have information to input. All of the components of teaching resources will help you guide your day-to-day activities. And again, this is the ones that you will be using, you know, the materials that you might be using the most: the book discussion cards, Mighty Minutes, intentional teaching cards, and teaching guides. Be organized and have materials ready in order to reduce waiting time and more transition. And this is what we were saying earlier, to avoid the waiting time. And the waiting time is the time that they spend waiting for you and doing nothing and learning nothing. So you should be prepared every day in advance before the day of the beginning of the day to have the activities and stuff like that. And that's an example of what you can do. You can divide everything by day of the week or by children if you have the time. Uh, this also will be helpful if you ever need to be absent, so many of you have a co-teacher or an assistant teacher, and sometimes, the teacher feels like everything falls off them. But if you have everything organized, if you pull your assistant teacher or you co-teacher to help you plan for the week and the day, she knows what needs to be done. And if you have to be absent, she just can pull the information and run with it.
All right. So 2 days. We've had 2 days of lots of information about curriculum. So we talked about what we know and what we wonder. So now let's figure out what we've learned. What are some things that you guys have learned? Hopefully something.
Please.
Please. Hopefully. You can unmute yourselves or put it in the chat box. What have you learned? And have we answered your questions? Like, think about the questions you had at the beginning. Did we answer the question that you had, if you had one? Come on, guys.
I literally lost my train of thought. I did have one. Don't worry.
You learned something, right?
One of the things that I did think was interesting or unique was the word wall. That was something that kind of stuck out to me that I thought was pretty interesting to possibly go ahead and do.
Yeah, you can definitely do a word wall. I've heard them called popcorn words or word walls, whatever you want to do. Any new words that they learn, even if they're not some crazy word, it could just be something simple like, I don't know, the word dizzy. Maybe they don't know what that means, just kind of, it gives you a tracking of what have we learned? Like, what are all these words? How have we expanded their vocabulary this year? So, yeah, that's a good idea.
Especially with children, English learner children.
Yeah.
That they come home from home with another language but English, and that will help them identify words and learn words.
Right. And it'll help their parents to know what words to learn and how much they can, support them with that. A couple people put in the chat box, Mighty Minutes are heaven sent and can be used so much more than what we were using them. Yes, especially this year. We have more transitions this year than we've ever had in our lives. More hand washing and more waiting, but we'll get through it. I like the word wall, and the book discussion cards are very interesting and helpful. That's great. How to best use all the parts of the curriculum kit. I'm curious to how others organize their lesson plan books. So that's interesting. So Holly, we can definitely, that would be something maybe you can talk to your instructional coach about how you want to organize, because I think everybody has a different idea of what organization is and what that means. So maybe talk to your coach about how to be organized and how you best want to lay it out in lesson plan.
Here it says the 90 minutes are definitely awesome, especially with all the transition because of COVID.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I'm glad you guys feel that these things are going to help you. This is good. That's the goal. That's the goal. All right. So your next steps, basically, you're going to have your instructional coach throughout throughout the school year to help you implement the curriculum in the best way. They're going to be the ones that are the go-to people for the other questions that you come across that you have as you're implementing the curriculum. They're going to see you regularly. They're going to talk to you regularly. I think it's all virtual this year, but they will still be in contact with you to be your support person throughout the school year. So I would definitely encourage you to look through your kits, really start diving in. If you're doing that beginning of the year study, make sure you're hitting all those components of setting the classroom rules and the routines and the schedule and all that stuff. Because that's going to give you that foundation for the rest of the year.
I had a question. So would this be more so towards for the coach to ask? I know one of the things that I struggle on the lesson plans is the PA standards, like picking out the standard to meet the criteria of the lesson plan.
Your coach can definitely help you with that. You have the learning standards. You have those off the PA Keys website.
Yes, like we have a binder that holds the PA standard, but it's like a lot. So sometimes I'm wondering, like, am I picking the right ones?
Right. I know that you can download, like, I'm a technology person. Like, I'm better with technology than I am with paper. So I know, like, if you download it as a PDF, you can actually hit Control F and find, like, if you're doing patterns, you can write the word patterns and it'll take you right to that. So it might be easier for you to find the one you're looking for if you do it virtually, if you have that capability.
Gotcha.
I don't know if that helps you or not, but I'm a very person, so I don't know. Because I have a hard time like flipping through to find the right one sometimes if it's like on paper.
Because don't you have to have one from each standard has to like one for writing, one for math? Do you have to have each standard like that, or you
Not
just
every
pick?
day? Like you'd want to put the standards that apply to each activity. So like if you're doing a writing activity, you want to make sure that whatever standard you write on your lesson plan is the one that relates to that activity. So if it's writing, search for a writing one that, might be recognizing letters or identifying letters in their name or something. You'd want to pull the right standard for that.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But your coach should be able to help you as well. Any other questions? Anything before we log off that you're not sure about or you feel like you need more support in? Anything you want to go back and look at? We can go back in the PowerPoint if we need to. Okay. All right. Well, if nobody has any other questions, feel free to log off. I'm going to put my email address in the chat box. If you do have any other questions you want to ask, feel free to email me and I will do my best. But otherwise, have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for participating. You guys were great today.
You too, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.